I thought I should make this video today just to clarify some points from yesterday, following my video about Starmer Stasi's the morally depraved individual that he is, planned meeting with a head-chopping jihadist terrorist, for which he should be getting arrested and held accountable for. Now, I just want to make something clear. I detest Starmer. He is a liar. He is a threat to us all. He is an autocrat. And him and his rancid governments are hideous and should not be in power. But I want to make something absolutely clear. The enemy of us all is the elite and the deep state and a military-industrial complex that builds its wealth on the backs of broken bodies and minds. The enemy of us are not Muslims. Muslim extremists, yes, in the same way of Christian extremists, and yes, they do exist. There are Christian militia throughout the African continent going around killing. We have the KKK. And let's not forget that it was Christian nations that started and fought both World War I and World War II and are responsible for the destruction of the Middle East and committed genocide in the Americas. And we need to really remember that. But I do think Christian values are a good thing. But there are extremists in all religions. You have to look to Myanmar and see, Buddhists who are known for being peaceful, beautiful philosophy, but Buddhist nationalists who have been murdering Rohingya and throwing Rohingya babies, reported to throw Rohingya babies onto bonfires. And then you have Hindu extremists, Hindutva in India, who have been committing crime after crime and raping the Muslim minority and targeting Sikhs. There are religious extremists in all groups and actually in all philosophies. So it's really important that we don't hold Muslims accountable for jihadists who have been funded, created and enabled by our own governments. If you don't believe me, look up the brave Mujahideen, how Osama bin Laden was literally armed and supported by the CIA and by the UK intelligence services. You can even look into the history of the Manchester bomber, and how Muslim Islamic extremists were enabled and supported in order to overthrow Gaddafi. Look throughout the Middle East. That is down to our governments and their lives, not down to me and you, but down to our governments. But what these individuals do, the elite, because they own all the mainstream media and actually much of our social media, they sow seeds of disunity. They scapegoat, as they always have done. That's what led to the Holocaust in the Second World War, one of the most well-known, obviously, genocides that have taken place. But it's the same playbook. Because if they can get me and you as ordinary people who are screwed over by them, fighting amongst ourselves and scapegoating other groups, then it means that we don't have the headspace to recognise that they're all screwing us. Nigel Farage is a banker. He doesn't, just because he pulls a pint doesn't mean he's one of us. He is part of that elite. And he uses the words he does, again, as a distraction, just as Hitler did and just as every other psychopathic autocrat has throughout history, just like Starmer has. Starmer lied and people fell for it. There was a lot of us warning people about who Starmer was because his track record showed who he was, not just on Assange, but on Savile and on and on and on. So I think it's really important that we begin to wake up. I'm working class. We are all being screwed over by the same people, and that's not as a consequence of Muslims. And it's not as a consequence of refugees escaping the bombs our government drops. Bombs that our government gives to heinous regimes throughout the world, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and others. They are escaping our bombs. So if we don't want immigrants, which are actually refugees, coming to our country, then what we actually need to be doing is stopping our government from creating the conditions in that country that requires them to leave, as we all would. And I say this because my granddad was a refugee during the Second World War. He had to leave Jersey as the Germans descended here, and he went to the UK, and then once he was of an age, he started fighting with the Allies. But they were refugees. All of us, if we were in a situation where we were facing imminent death, would probably do what we could to leave. Nobody gets in a boat with nothing because they want to come here and steal our jobs or take our benefits, which, by the way, are the shittiest in the whole of Europe. None of them does that. We really don't have a country that is that great. And I think it's really important that people recognise that. So let us actually learn from history and stop playing their game. There are centuries, millennia of these psychopaths using divide and conquer, and nobody wins. Our communities will continue to be destroyed. I remember when Farage, after Brexit was won, and I was divided on Brexit because I could see reasons for leaving Europe and concerns around it and neoliberalism and how it was decimating our communities. But I was also concerned about the rhetoric around it. But when he had his buses going around with 350 million more a year for the NHS, the next day when he was interviewed, he said, oh yeah, that was just for the campaign. He was never planning to keep to that. Farage thrives on your hate. Why do you think his party, they said it's an organic movement? No, it's not. They're backed by the billionaires, by the 1%, because they think we're stupid. Don't you see that? They think we're stupid. They get us fighting amongst ourselves so that we don't realise that they're screwing all of us. The enemy of us is them. It's not other ordinary people who also happen to have a different faith. We all need to wake up to this and start being a little bit smarter. And I say that as a working class individual who themselves has been screwed over from this system. So I know that this is a really long video, but I wanted to share it because, yes, there are Muslim extremists, as there are Christian extremists, as there are Buddhist extremists, as there are Hindu extremists. And no, Starmer is not left. He is a liberal, a neoliberal who profits from the destruction of your life, your community, my life, and my community. So let's wake up. Let's get rid of the 1%. Let's hold them to account, and let's stop playing their game.